Good evening and welcome to this first session during Lent. It's a reflection session to help us to understand and practice our faith better. Today we have the riches of Ignatian discernment explained, but not from the Jesuit clerical perspective. It is from a layman's perspective that we will be looking at Ignatian discernment. Mr. Montwin de Costa is a long-time associate of the Jesuits. Presently, he is our Director of Academics for our international school at St. Stanislaus. But he has been an alumnus of the Jesuits and is also very active in his parish, Holy Family, in Andheri. And recently he has joined a team of Jesuits and lay people studying a little bit more about Jesuit spirituality and how we can apply it to today's world. And that is what we have now, Montwin de Costa, helping us to understand from the layperson's perspective the practice of Ignatian spirituality. Mr. Montwin de Costa.
A very warm welcome to everyone present here in the church and those of you online. I wish you have a very pleasant experience this evening. At the onset, I would like to thank Father Fraser for giving me this opportunity to come and share some of my reflections on Ignatian discernment. At the beginning, I would not want this to be a talk. This is the season of Lent, and many times we use this as a season for grace, a special grace, blessing, where we give up on certain of our regular routine. But the intention is that I become a better person. And discernment is a process in which I want to choose between two good things. It's not about I'm doing something wrong and I have to decide to stop the wrong and do the right. It is here the Ignatian principle of becoming better than what I am. If you see the great saints, Saint Ignatius and Francis Xavier, they had accomplished a lot, but they were never happy with that. And that is what discernment is. So right at the start, we implore the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and Mother Mary, who Saint Ignatius had a very strong devotion to be present with us. So those of you who are sitting here, you actually imagine that I am sitting here in the presence of Jesus and Mother Mary, who will be guiding me through this reflection. So I'll say it again, it's not just a talk. It will be a guided reflection along with these Ignatian spirituality points that I will be putting forward this evening. To begin with, I would say there is always a disposition, what we call an Ignatian disposition. And before that, I would like you to think of what you would do. Before we see what Ignatius proposes, I would like you to think of any big decision which you have to make. Let's say if you have nothing in mind, think that someone is going to offer you a chance to move abroad, and now you have the option of I need to move abroad, I need to stay back in the country, and I have to make a decision. Both these are very good options. I'm doing well here, but I need to go abroad also. If you have any other option in mind, you can work with that. So I'll give you a minute, and the idea is not to come to a conclusion, but what would you do? How would you approach a solution to this? So a few moments for you all to think about what is it, what are the steps I would follow in making a decision. So imagine you have Jesus and Mother Mary on your side over there and they're helping you. So step 1, step 2, step 3, what I would do. Fine. If you've got at least one or two answers, it's fine. So one could probably be, I'll ask some of my friends who have gone through a similar experience, and I will check what they have to say if I have to move out somewhere. Or I would go on the internet and would see, what are the conditions, what are the various advantages, what are the disadvantages. So each of you would have had some steps in mind. Now, throughout this talk this evening and a reflection, you would see what Ignatius had done in his lifetime. But before we go to that, I've broken this presentation into 3 parts. So the first part is your disposition. Before we get into what Ignatius had done, our mind needs to be ready. It's like tuning a guitar. So disposition is how I be prepared for it. So I'm going to play a big match. I have to get match practice. So if I want to learn an instrument, I can't just take this and now we are going to do a bass guitar, 4-string guitar. And I need to get it tuned. Because if it is not tuned, I can learn all the techniques and it will sound terrible. And therefore, what sort of tuning is required if I need to practice some of these Ignatian principles? Okay, so let's take the first string which I need to tune. The first thing what Ignatius would have done, and he would probably want us to do, is put ourselves in the presence of Jesus and Mother Mary, who he had tremendous faith in. So if I'm trying to find out my will, then this will not work. Then you have already decided, then you need not go through this process. If you have already made up your mind, okay, I've already decided, this is what I want to do, then you can go ahead. But if you want to make a decision based on what God wants you to do, I will have to first put myself in the presence of God. I've heard one of this very strong, powerful sentences by one of a Jesuit who had mentioned it in one of his talks. If I have attended Mass, if I have gone for a rosary, and I have not seen the face of Jesus, I have said all the prayers, I have sung all the hymns, but I have not looked at him and I have not conversed with him, then I have wasted my time. And therefore the first thing is, be aware that I have this supernatural, powerful, all-powerful Creator in the form of Jesus or Mother Mary. St. Ignatius, once again, as I told you, a very powerful, very strong devotion to Mother Mary is actually with me. So your first string to be tuned is, I need to know that I have the presence of the Almighty who is guiding me and wants the best for me. And one of the terms that is used in Ignatian spirituality is indifference. Indifference means if I wanted this and I have to give it up, it's okay. If my will is to go towards the left, but in my reflection I find out, no, now I realize the right would be better, have the humility to say, okay, I give up going left and I take the right. So that's tuning the first string, being open. That means I have not already come up with a decision, I have not already made up my mind. Okay, now we go to the second. The second point in our disposition is to ask yourself, who am I? Irrespective of what age you are, who am I and what is my purpose on earth? And therefore I put there as a perspective exercise. A perspective is to look back at this place. Some of you probably sitting at your at home or at your workplace or sitting in this church, and ask yourself what was present at this location 100 years ago. This church is more than 100 years ago, so probably this would have been still existing. Then you go still more behind and say, add another 0. What would have existed here 1,000 years ago? You add another 0. What would have existed here 10,000 years ago? And most often, most likely, wherever you are, whether you are sitting at home or wherever, that place would have not existed. The people out there would not have been maybe your relative also. There would be people who would have spoken a totally different language. whose culture would have been totally different. Then you look forward and you say, 100 years from now, what will be present at this spot? So maybe your house where you are seated at will still be there. Maybe this church will still be there. Then let's go 1,000 years ahead of today. We don't know. Would this church still be there? Then you go 10,000 years ahead. Or maybe even 1 lakh years ahead, you go. And you will almost be certain that this place will not be the same. The people out here would be probably speaking a different language, having a different setup, and things will not be the same. What remains is what is handed down, not the names of people. We will never remember the names of people, maybe the first parish priest, or maybe some of you might remember the first, but second, third, who are the founders, who will come here, we don't know. And the same thing is going to happen to us. To understand that nobody will know who I am. So the I, which most often causes all the problems, will not be there. So whether you look back or look forward, what you do is what is handed down. But the I or the me, which everyone wants to show, my name has to be here, my name has to be present over there, most likely, if not surely, will not be there. So that when you tune your second string, you do things without wanting to be remembered for anything. What we would say is called a non-profit action. I do it not because I want to gain something. I do it because I like to do it. I'm making this choice because I like to do it, not because I will become richer or poorer, more famous or less famous. I do it because it makes me happy. Okay, so we have tuned our second string. First is we have put ourselves in the presence of Jesus and Mother Mary. Our second tuning is this perspective that I am not going to last. None of us. Okay, so we move on to the third. The third string is about being silent and being aware. So a disciple once asked his master, what is it that I should do to attain enlightenment? And the master told him, awareness. The next morning he went to him and asked him, Master, today what should I do to attain enlightenment? He said, awareness. And it went on for a week. And the disciple asked the master, now for the last 1 week you are telling me there is awareness. And the master said, yes. But on each day, your awareness is not of the same thing. So wherever you are, I would invite you to be aware of your presence at that place. So if you're at home, who are the people around you? If you're in the church, who are the people around you? What are the thoughts running through your mind? Am I anxious to get back home? Or have I to, take care of someone? Or is there something which I have to do? Just be aware of the thoughts at this moment running through your mind. Be aware, if you can, what are you feeling right now? Is there an anxiety? Is there a peaceful feeling? Or is there some excitement because of something? Or am I sad? Or am I in pain? And therefore, awareness is a huge quality which we need to develop. And the more you practice it, the more you be aware of. Be aware of who are the people who are around me. What are they feeling? What are they thinking? Who are the people who are influencing my life? Whose lives I am influencing? I'm just giving you a few examples. But awareness has no end. And therefore, one of the important aspects of Ignatian spirituality is being aware. And then our next string, it was written awareness before action. Once there was this boy who was near the fish pond, and he was putting his hand and taking out the fish from the pond and keeping it outside. And suddenly the caretaker came and said, what are you doing? He said, no, I'm saving the fish from drowning. Now, that is an action which is out of awareness, no awareness at all. I'm trying to help somebody, but in the bargain, I'm doing more damage. And therefore, sometimes many of our actions, if it is without awareness, creates more damage than doing good to somebody else. So that is what is meant by I increase my awareness and see whether sometimes the best action is to do nothing. And now we move on to the tuning of the fourth string. And the fourth string is about persistence. Sometimes we don't mind doing a crash course. A crash course means, okay, come on, I just have to sit for 1 week and everything is done. I have to listen to this talk. Half an hour and we are done. My Lenten work is done. I've gone to church, heard a talk and it's done. But if you have to reflect on your life and seek the will of God, it has to be a day-to-day persistent effort. The more you reflect, the more sure you are of what you are doing is the right thing or is the will of God for you. If it's a one-off thing, then you are never sure. So students who reflect on their careers, those who are making a choice and they reflect on it, maybe 1 year, when they're in college, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you can be most certainly sure that their decisions will be correct because of this persistence. And therefore, if you have to be successful in an Ignatian discernment process, you need to do this continuously and then you get, the benefits of it. Okay? So, this was part one. Part one is I'm getting used to it. So, if we are now going on to learning about Ignatian discernment to choose between two goods, I first need to know that I am doing the will of God. I am aware that my life here is temporary and therefore I am indifferent to whatever God tells me to do. I am ready to accept. Thirdly, I will spend time in silence and being aware of everything that's around me. And I will do it as often as I can. I'll move on to part two. So this was part one. Guitar's ready. Now you can play. It'll sound good. Part two is about what Ignatius did as a lay person. And that's why the slide is titled Ignatius the Layman. Now, he was not a saint while he was a soldier. He was a layman, just like any of us. What would a layman do? Go to work, come back, have dreams, have big plans, spend time maybe playing, chit-chat, going for a party. So we are going to look at Saint Ignatius as a layman, and then you will understand why he has proposed his points in discernment to make a good choice. So, the first image of Ignatius as a layman is a man seeking glory. All of us, when we are young, old, at any age, we want to be known. You look at Saint Francis Xavier, exactly the same. I want to be the best. Nothing wrong in that. Absolutely nothing wrong. That's why we say it's a choice between two good, not one wrong and one bad thing. It's very easy. So this is a choice between two good things. So he's seeking glory. So this is Ignatius, full of energy, working, as a soldier in the palace, trying to, be the best soldier, brave, not frightened of anything. And that is what a lay person is. All of us, when we start off, we've got that energy. This is what I want to achieve. And that is Saint Ignatius. He's not a saint, he's a lay person, doing his best, like most of us. Get up in the morning, go to work, try to do well at work, come back home, take care of the family, have dreams, have plans to plan out our future. And so he's going through the same process. So we are having this image of Ignatius as an absolute normal person who is not yet declared a saint. He is still a normal person. This is the first image we have of Ignatius, seeking glory like all of us. And then, as most of you know, he had this cannonball moment where he is on the battleground and his foot is shattered. And how many of us have a similar experience? May not be a cannonball striking us, could have been an accident, could have been an illness. It could have been some event, unfortunate event. And Ignatius is a layperson. He is not famous. And he's gone through this experience. He's got his big dreams, big plans. And all that got one shot of the cannonball and everything drops. So he's experienced what most of us experience. Most of the seniors would have at some point have experienced something which has not been according to plan. And Ignatius has gone through the same painful experience. And painful means absolutely painful. He is there on bed. Now, being a soldier, he wants to get back. He wants to get back. And therefore, he's told the doctors, surgery without anesthesia. So he does one surgery. After some time, he tries to walk and they notice that one bone is jutting out. And he tells them, no, I'm not happy. Another surgery. Doctor said, you're gone mad. It's going to be extremely painful. He said, never mind. Second surgery. Then for the next 2 years, experiencing pain. Lay person. He's not a saint. Experiencing pain, physical pain, probably even mental anguish, because he wants to impress somebody there are some ladies in the palace, he wants to impress them. Wants to go for his parties, he wants his friends. He wants to go around seeking, looking out for places. But now he's on bed. Mental anguish, physical pain, nobody, all alone. So many of us have gone through that, or some of you still probably having someone in the house going through this mental pain. Here's Ignatius the Layman going through similar pain, experiencing pain just like us. He has not become a saint all of a sudden. He's gone through that same pain which most of us are going through. The third image of Saint Ignatius. Now he's recouping, and now there's confusion because there was no other books out there but the lives of saints and the life of Christ. So he couldn't get all his vain glory magazines, which he would have wanted to, chivalry and valor. He couldn't get those books. So now while reading those books, there is some confusion. He's got two options now. Some part of the day, he's thinking about his glory. The other part of the day, he's thinking about the lives of saints, how these saints have given up everything in the service of the Lord. And on the other hand, he still has his eye to get back into the palace and get back to his original glory. Because he's a warrior, he's not going to give up. And so, he's got this confusion, again, with two good options. Two good options. One is to get back to work and work for his dreams. Nothing wrong in that. And he would have done it to the best. And on the other hand, he has this image of helping as the other saints did. And constantly this battle. And I would like to introduce another theme of this Ignatian theme of consolation and desolation. He's observing. When I think about my palace and getting back to all my glory, there is an excitement, solid excitement. Oh wow, I'm going to get back over there. But after some time he notices there is some sort of emptiness. Tremendous consolation, but at the end emptiness. Then he starts thinking about the lives of saints and the life of Christ. And there is no excitement. There is no that bubbling feeling and all. But after some time, there is tremendous peace. So, this is what is called a consolation. After experiencing or visualizing this part of my life of working with Jesus, working for others, surrendering my life for the others, there's tremendous peace. Now, this is going on for 2 years. This is not a 1 year thing or 2 months thing. For 2 years is going on. I'm thinking about one option. I'm excited. But after some time it's gone. Thinking about the other option. Not much excitement, but peace. So what he calls is interior movements. That's why awareness is very important. I need to be aware what's happening within me, not the thinking. What is happening? What am I feeling? Am I feeling relaxed? Am I feeling at peace? Or is there some emptiness? So there might be excitement, but there is emptiness. Very strange. No excitement, but there is peace. And therefore we need to be in touch with what's happening within. Which option gives me that sort of consolation? And that is what Ignatius has gone through as a layman. He had not written the spiritual exercises. He had not listened to any talk. He is observing himself. And he's observing these two different, consolation, desolation, consolation, desolation. Now, what he says is, look for the one which lasts. And he noticed, when he used to think about the saints and Jesus, it lasted. That peace lasted for a long time. And he also goes on to say, don't make a decision when you are in extreme consolation. That means I go for a retreat, I go for a prayer service, and I'm fully charged, and I have decided to give up this, I've got to give up. He said, please don't do that. Just because you're on top of the world, don't make decisions. Also, he said, if you're in desolation, desolation means I'm absolutely feeling the absence of Jesus, absence of God in my life, absolutely this, down and out, depressed and all. Please don't make a decision even that time. Wait. Weigh both the consolations, desolations, and then afterwards probably take spiritual guidance from more experienced people, and then make up your mind. So this is Ignatius the Layman, who is going through this challenge as some of us, young, old, middle-aged, making decisions, don't know what to do. This is what he suggests. Be aware of your consolations and desolations. Okay. The last part of what he does, now he's gone through it, is to take action. Take action. What he held as the most important part of his life, the sword, he now gives up, surrenders. How easy it is for a lay person to say, oh, this is my job, which has given me all the glory, which has given me all my money, and I'm giving it up for something which is of a lower price, and I may not be even famous. He's done it as a lay person. The decision he made was when he was recouping. And therefore, he has experienced life, the difficulties, and then making a choice and giving up. This part is most difficult for any of us, to give up the things which we are most attached to for a greater purpose. Had he not done this, we would probably not be in a Jesuit parish. We would not be having all the spiritual exercises and the retreats which almost every congregation follows today. But all that came later. At this moment, he was alone. When he was making this choice to give up the sword, he was not famous at that time. Probably did not have people watching him and, all the glamour. So that is Ignatius, the lay person, giving up, surrendering to God what he thought was the most dearest for a greater purpose. Finally, then he says, I have experienced peace. Now it is time for me to reach out to others. And that's when he sat down and made notes, which today we call the spiritual exercises. To be fit, we have people going to the gym. They'll go and do yoga. They go for a jog, or various exercises to get fit, physically fit. To be spiritually fit, Ignatius has written, the book with spiritual exercises to make you spiritually strong. Okay, so that is his contribution. Again, he was not a saint when he did that. He was a lay person, just like any of us. But he took the courage. He had the courage to sit down and say, no, I'm going to help others. I have experienced it. Now, he would never have known how far his exercises would have reached. But today we know how powerful those exercises are. But this slide is a summary of this Ignatian indifference. So he's made his mind without actually having a conclusion at the start. So he's made up his mind absolutely neutral. Whether I'm rich or poor, no difference. Whether sickness or health, longer life or shorter life, I will choose what God wants. Now, this is not easy. Definitely all of us want a longer life. All of us would want to be richer. All of us would want to be more famous. He says, if it happens, good. Not money is bad or fame is bad. No. If it happens, it's good. But I will not make my choice to achieve one of those things either. So I'm indifferent doesn't mean I'm not bothered. No. Indifferent means I will make my choices independent of all these factors. I move on to the third part. So that is the second part about Ignatius. And the last part is about us. And we get back to being aware that I still have, sitting down wherever I am, at home or whether I'm sitting down here, we are in the presence of Jesus and Mother Mary. And I'm going to put some slides on daily struggles that lay people go through and how this discernment process, what is the steps which Ignatius, in the beginning I asked you, what are the steps you would take to make a decision? Now I'll put the three concise, summarize it, 3 steps, what Ignatius would propose to us. And then we will see different situations, how we can apply this. So the first one is, ask for this openness to God's presence. Not easy, because most of the time we say, it's my will should be done. We say, okay, we in our minds we are saying, no, we want God to do it. But deep within, it is what's my will, not so much what's God's will. So this openness to say, okay, God, okay, open to your will. So that is his first step. And he had a tremendous faith in Jesus and Mother Mary, who he knew would want whatever was for his good. And so we can do the same. Secondly, is to explore various options. So while he was recouping, he is visualizing himself at the palace back as a soldier. He is visualizing himself serving people, putting himself in both places. Sometimes here, sometimes there, sometimes here, sometimes there. So you're making a decision, explore both as much as you can. And then finally, you see where the consolation is. As I've explained, consolation is which is more lasting. When I put myself in which position is the peace more lasting. We'll run through a few examples of our daily life situations. This is for probably the youth. Very important, even for the parents. Not only for the youth, even for the parents guiding their students. Very important decision in life is my career. It's like a make or break. Most often it is, what's my percentage? You got a 90%. Of course, today it has become much less that people with 90s only go in for science. Now there are a lot of 90s who go in for arts also. But if you are a person who is deciding based on percentages, based on which will give me a better salary, which will be more popular, where my friends are going, that is not what Ignatius suggests. First thing is he asks you, ask for the grace of God to be present as I'm making this decision, which is the one in which I will use my talents to the best, which is the one which will be most satisfying. Okay? So, if you've got 2-3 options as your career, he'll say, explore. Explore. It takes time. Don't say, I'll wait for my results and I'll see the percentage. No. Ask people on those fields, the experts. Explore. And then you see what happens to you after you explore. Where there is more peace. And It has to be a prolonged. As we said, one of those, the fourth string, persistence. Don't do it for 2 days. Don't do it for 1 month. The choice of career cannot be done in 1 month's time. So students come to me on the day of the result and say, sir, what should I do? This is my percentage. I said, if you have listened to me during the year, you will not ask me this question. I, who have no clue of your talents and your abilities, cannot tell you based on your report card what you should be doing. I am not against aptitude test and counseling courses. Those are indicators. But very often the indicators may not be what you like. So the option you would want could be something which you can work on and become good in those aspects. And therefore there's a lot of discernment which has to be done while making this important choice of career. Another important choice for most of our young is this choice of lifestyle. What state of life I would like to follow. And we just go by the way, come on. Become 25, okay, time to get married. Oh, no, I feel like going and becoming a priest, or I become a religious, or I want to stay single, didn't find somebody, so I'll remain single. But no thought to it. But important decision. And if we do what Ignatius suggests, it doesn't make a difference which state of life you choose, provided you have reflected on it. Another Jesuit, I remember very strongly saying, very clearly saying, there are married people who are happy and there are married people who are frustrated. There are religious who are happy and there are religious who are frustrated. There are single people who are happy and there are single people who are frustrated. So your state of life doesn't determine your happiness or your sadness. It is how much of reflection you have put which will determine whether you'll be happy or not. If you have not reflected and you're doing it just by the way, the emptiness will be there whichever state of life you choose. And therefore this discernment is extremely important. Even today you can do it. Irrespective of what age you are, what state of life you are, even today extremely important. Because when you get up in the morning, you need to know what is it that I do which will make my life meaningful. And that will not come by going for a counseling session or praying the whole night. No, you should pray. I'm not saying that. You can counsel, you can go for advice. But you need to sit down and do this, putting yourself in various options. It is not giving up the bad habit. It is replacing it by something which you find more satisfying. Sometimes we concentrate too much on the wrong. I will avoid this. I will avoid this. The more you avoid it, the more stronger it becomes. The more you try to avoid something, now you see the children on the phones. You keep on telling them they will not going to leave the phone. Give them something better, and then probably they see something better, they will give it up. Don't do this. Don't do that. But tell me what to do, no? So your state of life has to be worked on. It's not a one-day thing. It's not a 1 month thing. It's a process. Remember the fourth string, persistence. The more you do it, the more sure you are. Now the next one is this vocation of Mother Teresa, a vocation within the vocation. Now let's say you have done this discernment and say, okay, I've decided to become a religious. Now Mother Teresa found out in the convent that she was probably not too happy in the congregation she was, and therefore she wanted to serve a greater purpose, and therefore within that vocation found out she had another vocation. If you have decided to get married, or if you decided to be single, you have made the decision. Now what next? Now what next? Like the Jesuit principle of Margis, Ignatius would have done it, Francis would have done it. They all knew the spiritual exercises. They made up their mind. They've achieved a lot of things. But that is not the end. What next? Can't get up in the morning and say, oh, now I'm 60, I've retired, now there is nothing to do. Now I'm 80, I've got nothing to do. You get up in the morning and you start again. You may be 90 years also. But this discernment process never ends. Even if it means saying a few good words to someone around you. We are not talking about changing the world. being good to someone, sending a nice text message to someone, complimenting someone. Small things, but it has to be something which you decide on. I'm going to probably end with this one and run through a few more. It's about the most common is this differences in opinion. You find it everywhere, in every family, in every workplace, amongst every friendship. And how often we are, filled with anger, resentment. And that's how we live our lives. Very happy to live, very happy to live with it, but not doing anything about it. Because we are not ready to see the other person's perspective, not reflecting enough, not paying silence. See what the other person, being aware of the other person's experience. Not easy. Not easy to say, okay, I'm ready to concede and go your way. So, just to run through a few, I would like to wind up in a minute's time. Some faced with some terminal illness, something which Ignatius also have gone through. Probably he did not know whether he'll get up from the bed again. But persistence. I'm sure there are many who are, on bed, don't know, doctors don't know, will come back or no. What do you do? Not easy. First, ask for God's guidance. Second, in this state, what is it that I can do? Persistent, not easy. But remember, Ignatius did it when he was not famous. These are the problems of lay people. But when it comes, we don't ask for it, but when it comes, we need to face that. Finally, the last slide is this of letting go, the most difficult thing to do. The two probably greatest Jesuits, Saint Francis Xavier and Saint Ignatius of Loyola, when the Pope had asked Saint Ignatius, I want someone to go to India. There was another Jesuit who Saint Ignatius had appointed. And when he went on the ship, they found he had fever and they couldn't take him. So they sent him back. And the ship was supposed to leave very soon. And there was no one around except Francis Xavier. So Ignatius has to bid farewell to his right-hand man, his best friend, knowing that they're never going to meet again. What helped him to make that decision? The same thing, continuous discernment. What is the will of God? Greater glory of God. What is the will of God? Not my will. What is God's will? Send Ignatius, send Saint Francis. Now also equally important for Saint Francis to say yes. Saint Francis could have said no. So both these men have experienced that the will of God is more important. And without hesitation, Saint Francis says, yes, I'm going to India. Tremendous letting go of almost everything. Knowing I'm not going to come back to family, not going to come back to my friend, not going to come back to my country, going never to come back again. Letting go. The most difficult thing for any of us to do. And therefore, when we talk about Ignatian discernment, if you have to go through the entire presentation this evening, it's about being aware of what's happening within us. Most importantly, where do I find peace? And the aim is to find what is going to make me happy doing the will of God. I'll end with this slide, and as a reflection, we will sing this famous hymn of Saint Francis Xavier, of Saint Ignatius of Loyola, Take and Receive, offering ourselves to the Almighty and offering our lives during the season of Lent and say, make us what you have made us to be. You have given us birth. What is it that we are meant to be? Show us the way and lead us through the path like Saint Ignatius and Saint Francis. So we'll wind up with this hymn, Take and Receive.
Take and receive, O Lord, my liberty. Take all my will, my mind, my memory. Do thou direct and govern all and sway. Do what thou wilt, blessing these, all riches I forego.
In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Good night, everyone, and thank you very much for being so patient.